Let's move from the east of the continent back home to Nigeria, where President Bola Tinubu has authorized the appointment of 8 new chief executive officers for parastatals and agencies under the Federal Ministry of Information and National Orientation. Now, according to a statement released by the Special Advisor to the President on Media and Publicity, AJuri Ngelale, the President tasked recently entrusted leadership in these significant subsectors to innovate and create new opportunities for Nigerians to appreciate the effective reforms of the key institutions of government.
Mr. Ngelale noted that the appointments are with immediate effect. The newly appointed individuals are Mr. Lanre Issa-Onilu, the Director General, CEO, National Orientation Agency. We also have Mr. Salihu Abdul Hamid Dembos, the Director General and CEO, Nigeria Television Authority, NTA. Dr. Mohammed Bulama, Director General and CEO, Federal Radio Corporation of Nigeria. Mr. Charles Ebuebu, Director General, CEO, National Broadcasting Commission. Mr. Jibrin Baba Ndase, Director General and CEO, Voice of Nigeria. Dr. Lekon Fadolakbo, the Director General and CEO, Advertising Regulatory Council of Nigeria. Mr. Ali Mohammed, I'll take that again, sorry. Mr. Ali Mohammed Ali, the Managing Director and CEO, News Agency of Nigeria. Mr. Dili Ezuga, the Executive Secretary and CEO, Nigerian Press Council. The appointments come 24 hours after closed-door talks between the President and the Minister of Information, Mohammed Idris, at the State House, Abuja. Joining us this morning to discuss these appointments is political analyst Adebowale Jeff Johnston. Good morning and thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning and thank you for having me.
All right, I'd like to find out what your thoughts are about these appointments. All of them, of course, are pointing towards information and media. Is there anything concerning? Did you see the firings and the hirings coming?
Okay, thank you for having me again. So good morning, Nigeria. So I saw the fact that there will be some changes made in agencies across the country, whether we like it or not. Some of these agencies are literally time-bound, while some is at the discretion of the person of the Mr. President to make those appointments. So naturally, I think I'd said at the beginning of this administration that it was important to actually do what I'd called some sort of public sector reform. And this is not just only about changing people, because, every time, every new government, wants to make changes of people. But beyond that, there's a need for proper reforms. And again, those proper reforms need to dovetail into people, processes, and performance of those agencies. So, yes, it is important that, Mr. President would have looked at some of those agencies and say, how effective and how efficient, the agencies are as to the dream of delivering value to the people, to all of us, the taxpayers. But most importantly, what I would like to even see much more is the other part, apart from people, the other part as to processes and performance. And looking through this list, I have not been able to do a deep dive into the profile of each of these individuals, but I want to believe that there should be some level of competence, character and capacity that could have been shown by these people, and it's not just political appointments. So those will be the things that will be very, very important for me to see, and I think all Nigerians should look out for over the next few days. Who are these people, and how competent are they with delivering on the mandate given to them?
Yeah, but is it also, and of course, it's not discrediting the competence. We, of course, would x-ray some of these persons. Lanre Issa-Onilu, for example, has more than 15 years experience in communications, and of course, is being mentioned as one of the people with the most experience. Of course, he's going to be handling the National Orientation Agency. But is it also expected that there would be people who see these things as part of the process when there's a new government? They would spread across the appointments here and there to their cronies and friends of the party and all of that. For example, Issa-Onilu, I just have to use him as an example. Of course, was the APC spokesperson since 2018, and now is now being made head of National Orientation Agency. So is it unexpected or is it unusual that Nigerians will still, see these things as really just appointments for, political settlements, basically?
Okay, so that is actually one of the key things that is important, and where I sit, and I should say this, just sad. I think I got to my house about almost 2 a.m. this morning, coming back from Abuja to Lagos. And I know that there's a lot of lobbying, a lot of people trying to engage for appointment.
Yeah, very true. And it seems like there's even appointments there's new offices being created here and there, just so that everyone is pulled into the space.
Yeah, so that's again one of the reasons why I said that at the beginning of this government, I said there's a need for proper public sector reform. And the idea is not just only about creating so-called jobs, because if you have jobs and you don't have the right people to even do the jobs, you will just have you will just bloat the public sector. And we've had several complaints about the fact that the cost of running government in Nigeria is actually too high. And now it seems like we're just creating more, offices, and even the ones that are there, it's like we're creating more problems because we must settle more people who may have been part of, securing the dream of Mr. President. But I also don't want to believe outrightly that that is what it is until we actually see that, okay, these people are actually really delivering the value and it's actually helping for growth. So it is not enough to think that it is politically driven, albeit there is some sort of undertone there that some people are in position. In fact, I think it was yesterday while I was at the airport, I saw that the young, 25-year-old, young man that was given appointment to lead FEMA, Mr. President, as kind of like counseled that and pulled the plug on that, and again it shows maybe and literally we may not necessarily say that is exactly what it is, but it showed to me that there is some sort of listening, because everybody spoke about it, that how could a 25-year-old guy who just finished NYSC just last year or something, who has never really done anything, those were the things. And if we look at all of this list and Nigerians can actually, speak up to them, maybe those who shouldn't be there at all, maybe Mr. President will change them, because it seems that there's some of listening. And so if you want to ask me or say, are you trying to say that Mr. President has a listening ear? Maybe, at least for that particular situation that we can already see. So yes, there are some of the names here, as you display it, where we can say, yes, some of these guys have what it takes to run this, particular agency that they're leading. But sometimes also, you also want to ask that, are there not other people within that same space, maybe who are more capable? So the question is, if there is one or two more people who are in those spaces that could have actually been, and then they are not there, then we can then say, okay, maybe appointing someone junior or someone totally different who could have been there is now speaking towards that, partisanship, or because you were not part of, my dream, so I wouldn't use you, So if there is nothing like that, that the best person is actually the person that has been appointed, then we can, wait and see what these guys are going to deliver, the kind of value they will deliver to Nigerians.
Some have expressed concern, and maybe we call them fears, that a lot of these appointments and replacements are done to favor the current administration. Some have expressed concerns that these appointments are done in order to ensure that the government has a full control over the narrative that is being put out there. because, of course, these are the information and the national orientation sectors. Would you say that this is a legit concern, and is this something to pay attention to?
So yes, this concern actually seemed more, likely, even if it's not 100%. And the reality of that is that you can't take anything away from when people are in position because of their political affiliation. It best to begin to ask the question. The fact that a very strong PDP man is actually running the Federal Capital Territory today says something a little bit different about that appointment, even if it is in itself, anti-party, activity, as the party will say. But if we continue to make appointments based on people who are in the party and who have done something maybe at some point or the other at the place of election and electioneering, then other parties and other concerned Nigerians will say, oh, are you doing this because you're trying to settle, or because there is still something major that you are still going through? That is why you are making this appointment. But if the Mr. President doesn't have any tribunal, situation right now, maybe everything is settled, then maybe we wouldn't be saying because he wants to literally own Nigeria for the narrative, and we'll be talking about something totally different. But yes, there is one side to that conversation, as much as there is the other side to the conversation where we're looking deeper into the conversations of the character, the competence, and the capacity and the capabilities of these people, and say, can they actually deliver value?
Well, just like I said, I want to be sure that we do not also neglect the capabilities that these persons may have. For example, I spoke about Lanre Issa-Onilu before, but also just to mention Mr. Salihu Dembos, who's now the Director General of the NTA. He was Director General Marketing for the NTA for many years before this appointment. So, these aren't just nobodies. They definitely have, some wealth of experience that I do not want us to belittle in any way, and I hope that we haven't done that. I also want to talk, that might be a final question, but I also want you to speak on these agencies. For example, the National Orientation Agency has been, in my opinion, comatose for a long time. It has barely existed in the last 20 years. They are still paying salaries, but they're not doing anything, worthwhile. So what kind of leadership do you think that these agencies need to be able to get back on their feet? And how relevant really are they in today's Nigeria? I'm talking about the NTA, FRCN, National Orientation Agency, Voice of Nigeria, all of them.
So this will bring me to the kind of conversation I've been having over the last few months. And it's the same conversation that I would say that what is the Nigerian dream? If we can answer that question, it would then be easier for us as a people to forge a new Nigeria. And I know that there's been some sort of dust raised. My former colleague and a big brother, I would call him, Feladro Toye, was given an appointment at the presidency as well some days ago. And this is somebody who over the years I've shared, his vision and his dream about Nigeria. And so hopefully maybe, because I'm not certain now 100% whether he has accepted and he has resumed office based on the appointment given. But if he has, maybe he would be able to actually work with these agencies, and most especially the National Orientation Agency, to actually draft this Nigerian dream. And they don't have to call it that anyway, but I'm hoping that they would be able to engage much more about, creating what every one of us can actually embrace and be able to say, okay, this is the new value for Nigeria. This is the Nigeria we want to see. And we can dovetail that even further into proper orientation and reorientation of Nigerians. and and all of that. So yes, just like the agency have been somewhat quiet, you have many more agencies and parastatals of government that have been gulping funds over the last few years without necessarily doing anything. And I'll cite an example of how a particular state, I wouldn't want to mention the state, spend about 250 million every quarter to buy alum, as it's called, to purify water. Then the question is, who is getting public water in the state? So if you look at that, there are many agencies like that who government are funding, but they're not necessarily doing anything. So hopefully, with the right appointment over the next few months, we will start to see all of these, more or less sleeping giants, begin to wake up and actually engage Nigerians with proper value. That's what brings me to the place of performance. I said earlier, people, processes, and performance. So if we get the people right, and we have the right enabling laws and bylaws that talks about the processes of what those agencies must do, then we can begin to measure adequately the performance. I have sent in some papers to some agencies that I have access to that we need to create a proper performance management system.
I think that's really the highlight of it, being able to create a proper performance management system where we can analyze how well they're doing within specific time frames. Know, okay, if somebody needs to be replaced or if someone needs to be applauded for a job well done. But we're certain that in the coming weeks, we'd like to have you back and see how well they're faring. Adebowale, Jeff Johnston, thank you so much for your time with us this morning on Breakfast Central.
Thank you for having me.
All right.